This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with my buddy, my pal, sometimes my therapist, Jared Davis. How you doing?
I'm here. I'm here.
I need you to be more than just here, therapist.
I know, right?
I need you to talk me through.
I have to charge you, though, if we go that route. So,
Okay.
Whereas if I join in with you, neither one of us owe either anything.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, we'll just do a mutual gripe session.
We can do that. That'll work.
Well, griping in the direction of the Georgia Bulldogs, who we're about to face in the Deep South's oldest rivalry, going to Athens. This begins Auburn's stretch of away games for the whole month of October, and Auburn will return back, I think it's early November, to Vandy, with Vandy coming to Auburn. So it'll be an away streak, and I'm sure the Auburn, Auburn's going to feel it because you're not going to have as many fans and the downtown, commerce kind of stuff. But I feel like this is going to hurt the team, and we're coming in 2-3, and you're going up against Georgia, who Georgia is obviously one of the best teams in the nation, even though they just lost to Bama. But hey, Bama is now the new number one in the AP poll, and here we are. I mean, it's Georgia Hate Week. You and I live in the state of Georgia. We cover this every time we talk about Georgia. And to me, this game means a lot to us in Georgia. Probably just, I mean, it's like right up there with Iron Bowl, maybe just like a notch down. But I mean, this game, there's a lot of Auburn players that are from the state of Georgia, so it's going to mean a lot to them in this coming week. I mean, let's just talk about where Georgia's at this point. They're 3-1. They came off a year where they didn't make the playoffs last year. Bama kept them out. Good job, Bama. Appreciate it. This year, Bama beat Georgia just this last Saturday, and I'll give Georgia a lot of credit, because to be down, I think it was 28 points, Georgia, they battled back in Tuscaloosa, and not many teams can do that. I mean, Bama still came up and won that game. And, I mean, I think it showed you a lot of who Georgia is. They're not going to quit despite being down by a bunch. And Kirby Smart's obviously one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in college football right now. But he still lost. And I don't know. I was kind of battling in my head. So, Jared, I want to, talk this through with you. Would it have been better for Georgia to win last week against Bama? They just had the biggest comeback in, I think, college football history for top 10 teams or something crazy like that. Or, is it better that they lost and got a little humbled? What's your thoughts on this?
For our chances, or for me and you living in the state of Georgia?
Like Auburn football chances.
Auburn football chances. I don't know. I mean, I think from an Auburn football standpoint, I think the best probably wound up happening, because if they'd have gotten embarrassed, they would have been really mad this week.
Oh yeah,
they're going to be mad. They're going to be mad this week, but there's a little bit of, okay, we came back, we made it a game, could have won,
yeah,
maybe even should have won in the end. So I don't know, you may lose a little bit of edge there. One positive, Georgia's just so well coached. I mean, they're a machine. But you saw a few kinks in that game, and you don't usually see that. I mean, I was seeing uncharacteristic Georgia things. There were Alabama players wide open. Beck was just very loose with the ball.
Yeah, 4 interceptions.
And some of this was even before it was out of. This was even before some of it was out of reach, we thought. So it wasn't like they were just slinging it around. It very uncharacteristic. The defense they did some uncharacteristic things that. We're not beating Georgia, but the way that we can, I mean, we moved the ball against Oklahoma almost 500 yards, and I would say Oklahoma's probably the second tier, maybe Alabama, but second tier behind Georgia in defense. So I think we're probably going to be able to move the ball against Georgia some. We're not going to be able to do enough to win. So I don't know that it really matters if Georgia won or lost that game, but I would say probably played out about as good as we would hope.
Yeah, I mean, if Georgia had won, I think they would be riding the high, and then Auburn would be primed for potentially the back down to earth kind of game. I mean, it's still Georgia; they're still well coached. They're going to be well prepared in Athens, and you got to think the fans are going to be. I mean, it's a rivalry game; they're going to be ready too. But and for a lot of reasons, Georgia kind of coming out of that game, making it super close, literally having the lead for like 10, 12 seconds or whatever it was. I think that gave them the hope, and they're probably licking their chops against Auburn at this point, even though Auburn's defense is, I think we're decent and we're better than I think some people are giving us credit for. But Georgia and Beck, if we're not in his head early and often, whether that's hitting him or getting interceptions or pass breakups, I mean, I think Beck can easily eat us apart. And that's a little bit of a humbling moment. But I see this game in a lot of ways playing out just about as good as I think Auburn fans could hope for. And if we somehow come out of here, which we probably won't, with a win, if we do that, this would be one of the craziest wins ever for Auburn. And I don't even know how you'd explain that. I mean, yeah. Anyway, let's talk through some of the players to watch for Auburn this game. We'll start out with offense, defense, and special teams. For offense, I'm going to pick Cam Coleman. The main reason for this, I think our passing game is going to have to be on point against them. You saw Alabama doing it against Georgia last week. When Bama's passing game was going, they were scoring lots of points and scoring quick. And I think guys like Cam Coleman, KLS, I think those are two big guys that if Auburn could get those guys the ball a lot early, that helps your team a lot. Jared, who are you feeling for offense for this game? Who are you going to be watching?
I don't know. I mean, I want to say Jarquez, but I don't trust us enough to run the ball with him. So we are proving we want to pass the ball. So I'm going to go KLS. I think he's the most polished and, always seems to be in the right place, makes big-time plays. Cam Coleman is your bigger wow threat, and we're going to need one or two of those. But KLS is going to be your guy to keep a drive alive, run the right route. So I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I was just looking. KLS already has 415 yards and 6 touchdowns, which we are 5 games into the season. He's looking on track. If he keeps this up, being Auburn's 1,000-yard rusher, which that would be wild. I mean, I don't think we've ever had one. If I remember right.
1,000-yard receiver. We've had. It's been. I think I saw something that said 25 years. I think we had. Was it Ronnie Daniels? Who was the guy the year Ben Leard torched Georgia? I think the receiver was Ronnie Daniels. I'm pretty sure he might have had 1,000 yards. That was back. I don't even know if you were born, AJ. That was like late 90s. So it's been a long time. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I think it has been. I was going to see if I could pull this up quickly, but I'm not able to. Yeah, it's been a long time. And
the thing
it's kind of bound to happen at some point.
The thing, and we've been better in the past, but the thing about the Georgia rivalry that was so fun was that, like, you never knew. And it was the away team that somehow pulled it out a lot of times, and it's just been taken away. Like, they've locked this thing down, which kudos to them. But, like, in the past, in this game, you'd be like, I don't know, man. We may go up there and win this ball game. I mean, even Georgia fans would used to say that. And there was a time when they came with Matthew Stafford to Auburn one time. We were number 2. They were not good. And Stafford ran for 100. Matthew Stafford ran for 100 yards.
My gosh.
And they won the ball game. And it's just like that's what used to happen. So I want to get back just for fun. And I know Georgia fans don't want to. They want to keep dominating. Just for fun. It gets boring when you're like, you know exactly what's going to happen. Let's make this rivalry fun again, and let's go up there and see what we can do, man. I think we are going to move the ball. I think we're going to surprise the people on the ability to move it. I think we're going to turn the ball over too many times. I think it's going to be the same broken record.
Yeah.
I think we're going to look back and say, man, if this and this. I don't think they cover the 23-point spread. I can get called out on this if I'm wrong. I just don't. I mean, we've had worse teams. Believe it or not, this team record-wise is bad. We've had worse offensive teams and where they've been stronger, and it wasn't even a 23-point spread. Now, there have been a few that got away from us, but I don't think they cover this.
I mean, if Auburn, again, if we can statistically, if we keep, if you're looking at the trends of, can we statistically put some yards on the field, and you give yourself opportunities to score a touchdown, maybe get a couple, maybe an interception or a fumble thrown in here. I mean, you're talking still about a rivalry game, and Auburn and Georgia typically, have played pretty close. Even in Athens, I think you can keep it close. Yeah, and by close I mean like a probably 2 touchdown kind of lead, but it's still going to be tough. Like you're talking about a Georgia team that probably feels very motivated this week to come out and say, hey, I know we just lost to Bama, but we can do this. Like, we can come out and still beat Auburn. and I'm sure they have the confidence, like, at this point to do that.
I think this is one of Kirby's. That doesn't mean they won't go on to have a great season, but I do think this team has more holes in it than Kirby's last 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, even Bama's great. I mean, Bama's very talented, but even some of the stuff they were doing is like, that would not have happened last year. Like, Georgia would have locked that down. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. So, and Bama's their kryptonite. I mean, the last 3 games they've lost have been to Bama. But I still think that there was, I don't know. I think there are some opportunities there for us on offense if we don't screw up. And I'm talking about opportunities to make the game entertaining. I don't think we win. But there are some opportunities to make it entertaining.
Yeah.
We have very thin margin. We got to take them. We can't miss them. If we miss them, it's going to get ugly. So we'll see.
Yeah. The thing I keep coming back to is I almost want this to be like, and this is me preaching to myself, but I want you Auburn fans to listen to this almost as a gauge of where we at as, in the recruiting realm. Obviously, we're still far behind Georgia, but are we catching up? Are we, making strides in the right direction? Because, like, I was just looking at, the last year, obviously we were so close to beating Georgia 27-20. It was a 7-point loss. And, to me, if we could somehow keep it around like 10 points, maybe 14, maybe even 17, but for sure, like 10 or 14 points difference, I think you're showing that you have improved, and, in the near future, we can beat Georgia and make this rivalry a little bit more even. As since Kirby's been there, it's been pretty tough for Auburn. Let's go to our defensive players to watch. I just think the way that obviously Georgia passes the ball is important, but they also still feed off of the running game. And if you can slow down their running game, I think you force Beck to make a lot of decisions, and the more decisions a college football player does, you just saw this against Alabama where he threw 4 interceptions, the better the defense does, because they have more opportunities to do something with it. So I think it's going to come down to the front 7 getting the rush defense and stopping that, so that Georgia has to make lots of decisions. And I think you give yourself a little bit more of a shot there. Jared, who are you thinking on defense that you'll be watching?
I'm gonna go just the DBs as a whole, because I really think our D line has really impressed me. They've been putting a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. For the most part, they stopped the run well. I think Reddick had a
DeMarcus Reddick.
We didn't mention him for a true freshman. Dude, we're seeing a lot of. So here's the positive thing about Hugh Freeze if you want to have a positive, and I'm worried if I'm being honest, but like the freshmen that he brought in are having a huge impact. They're every game another one's getting playing time, and when they're playing well. So like the transfer portal area, you got to worry about, do you hold on to these guys? But if we hold on to the people he brought in, we add to that. I think we're in okay. But I'm going off a different rant there. But yeah, Reddick looked good. But the DBs, man, we got beat against Arkansas on a play we shouldn't have that probably cost us that one. We got beat against Oklahoma, and we weren't even close. I mean, we were trying to play catch up on that pass, and like not even close. So like, we gotta. And listen, they played well. They didn't even give it 300 yards, but like you gotta lock that down, man. Like you gotta lock it down. I mean, you gotta make sure. I think everybody on the defense is doing their part. I think the DBs have been the weakest link. Some of the pass interference calls are a little iffy, but I feel like those are happening every game. Like, get in position, get your head turned around, and we might start winning some more games.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part that I think if Georgia's going to do it, they're going to pick apart our secondary, and they could go up quick on us if we're not prepared, or we let a guy past us. I mean, that can happen, because guess what? Georgia still has the 4 and 5 stars that can do that. On special teams, I'm going to be watching kicker. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, especially since last week Towns was struggling to make field goals. But we also heard, Alex McPherson is he's dressing out. He's getting back to health. It obviously looks like he's not 100%, or else we would have seen him last week. But whoever the kicker is, I mean, I think that could be, something to be watching out for. I mean, in actuality, I would love to be a field goal game, but it's probably not going to happen. If we're down to a field goal game against Georgia, this would be, again, one of the wildest Deep South oldest rivalries ever. It's probably not going to happen. But, Jared, who are you going to be watching on special teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Towns McGee. I mean, I don't think somebody was saying McPherson was, I guess, quote-unquote cleared to play, but I think you could tell maybe he didn't have the strength with his leg. I wasn't at the game. Somebody was telling me he was at the game, so I just don't know if he's going to be able to go. So it's going to be Towns, man, and, kicking's a weird sport, man. You mess up one game, but you come back the next and hit the game winner, and everybody loves you. So
that's right.
You can bounce back, and, yeah. I mean, I don't think this one comes down to – I don't want anybody to laugh. I don't think this is even a field goal game. I do think it's less than 23, but – who knows, man? You never know. I mean, you look back at the Bama game in 2019, we got that extra second back on, and we kick a field goal at halftime, and, that wound up being the difference because we needed that in the second half. So you never know, man. Just every point. We need every point we can get right now. If we get every point we had a chance to get against Oklahoma, we win that ball game. So,
yeah,
we need them all. We're going to need every field goal we can get. So I'm keeping an eye on him.
Yep, definitely. Let's go into our score predictions for this game. If you're looking at the line, Georgia has a 23.5-point favorite, at least to open up the week, which makes sense. They're in Athens, but I think Auburn historically can keep it a little bit closer than that, especially if I think the big asterisk here is, can Hugh Freeze keep the guys engaged, mentally, physically ready to play? And if he can do that, I mean, I think you can keep it close. I mean, Kentucky kind of showed you can keep it close. Bama obviously was in Tuscaloosa, but like they took it to Georgia. So I mean, I think you've got some. If you play well, you can keep it a little bit closer than a complete like blowout of this game. I'm gonna go with, I think preseason I said 17 points. I still feel like that's about right. I'll stick with 17 points. I think if we win by 17 points, I think
we win?
No, Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia, sorry.
Okay. You said we win by 17. I was like,
okay,
sorry. I'm on board with you. Yes, sir.
I did say that. No, I think
got me excited.
No, yeah, Georgia wins by 17 points. Sorry. I think I'm going to stick with that. Who are you going with?
I didn't know if you I didn't know if you'd flipped over and become a Georgia fan, which, by record,
no. No way, dude.
I think it's probably 30-17.
So you're talking 13-point win.
13-point, yeah.
Okay. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if we are only 13 points away from beating Georgia, I think that that's good for the team. It's good for the fans. I mean, if you're thinking we can win this game, check yourself. Check yourself. Let's talk through our top offensive threats for this game. Again, the criteria is most touchdowns in the game, and the tiebreaker is yards. So I keep going with KLS, and KLS has proven me right so far. I think you got to go KLS again for me. Who are you going to go with for your top offensive threat for this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be KLS. I mean, he's most consistent.
Yeah,
we're gonna throw it. We're gonna have to complete some big plays. I think he's the most logical for that to happen.
Yep. The other one that I kept coming back to was I could also see Rivaldo if we get into the red zone. Rivaldo being a target for us, and if he does what I think he can, and he's such a big body dude, give him the opportunity. Could be another guy. All right, so let's go to our final segment of the day, an Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. There was a good number of teams in the SEC that were on bye weeks this week, so we didn't have as many games. But we did have, and this was kind of it's right before the Auburn game, and kind of bled over into the time Auburn was playing, but the Kentucky versus Ole Miss in Oxford. And we were watching it. They showed it a bunch on the Jumbotron before the game started. And then my brother pulled up his phone, and we were watching it, I think, on like YouTube TV or something. And watch Kentucky beat Ole Miss. And I mean, okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. Ole Miss had multiple, I'm not just saying just one, there were multiple fake injuries that stopped Kentucky's momentum. Now, thankfully, I think this serves Ole Miss right, because there was multiple times that a player just was literally standing there, looked over at the bench, and then cramped up. And you're like, that doesn't happen, dude. Stop it. Just stop it. Even the TV commentator, even after they came back, because they did a TV timeout for the injury guy, and the I forget which announcer it was, but he was like, oh man, I'm so thankful that guy just got up there and walked off after that fake injury. Like, he straight up called it out on live television, and I'm like, that's awesome. But it to me, it's kind of annoying. Fake injuries. To me, it's super unethical, to do that, especially if your team is struggling, which Ole Miss was struggling a lot in that game. So hey, even with the fake injuries, Kentucky won it. We've talked a good bit about the Bama game, but my goodness, Jalen Milroe, I was thinking in the first half, he looks like a Heisman. That's the kind of thing that you want to see, putting up, I think, 28 straight points on Georgia, and Georgia had no response for him. He was running the ball, passing the ball, doing everything he possibly could. But then Georgia adjusted and slowed down Jalen Milroe and Bama offense a lot. And that was a fun. I mean, I love early in the season, or I guess we're pretty much midway through the season. Already sad to say, but I love some good games like this, like top notch battles. And that was definitely a battle. One other one that I noticed was, and this wasn't necessarily Auburn related, even though Bo Nix did play at Auburn, but hey, Broncos just beat the Jets with Bo Nix. He beat Aaron Rodgers. So good for Bo Nix. Look at him go. So love to see that. Jared, any other observations from this last week? Any big adjustments that you've seen in the SEC over this last week?
No, I agree with you on the injuries, though, man. There's got to be a penalty for that. I mean, there was one where it was like Jackson Dart is pointing at the running back and saying, go down. Yeah. That is super clear. You have to be able to review. We got to change this rule. You got to be able to review that and say that's a 15-yard penalty.
Well, and the thing is, those you have video rolling on the field pretty much the whole game, including timeouts, and including you should be able to review that and see this guy was not down. He's walking around, he's fine, and then he just falls down on the ground. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, and they're like doing nothing is making it bad. Like fans now boo anytime any player's on the ground. Like it used to be you cheered and they're booing, and there's some times where kids are literally hurt. But the fans are just over it and they're booing like it happened last time in the Georgia-Alabama game, and it wasn't even at a time where it would have benefited a player for being down, and the guy was genuinely hurt. People booing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are we doing here? And Lane and them are the worst, man. I mean, Auburn. I remember Auburn did it one time. It was like 6 years ago, and even then, I was embarrassed for us. But Lane is doing it at a high rate. It's unethical. It's Bush League, and they need to start penalizing.
Yeah,
they need to start penalizing.
I mean, to me that should be a personal foul.
Yeah, 100%.
Like 15 yards, automatic first down, or push them back 15 yards, depending on whatever side of the ball it's on. And, that player should, just like any kind of...
Or make a...
go ahead.
I think you're going where I was going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, make it if you do this again in the same game, you're kicked out. Like, kind of like, I don't know, like any other personal foul.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking, and then I immediately think, well, a kid may try to play when he's hurt if you do this. But I'm like, make a kid miss 3 plays. If he goes down, he's out 3 plays. I don't know. Do so if you're not going to penalize him.
Yeah.
But then again, you might have a guy try to push through when he shouldn't because he really is hurt, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go out. So I don't know, man. Make them waste. Does NFL make you use a timeout? I don't know. If a kid's injured, you got to do something. Like if there's something's got to be done because it's embarrassing. I mean, you even have. I mean, even Herbie called out a team, not this week, but last week that did it. He was talking about being unethical. Like, you just don't want kids being called out because sometimes they really are hurt. And in typical
injuries happen.
Typical NCAA fashion, they do nothing, which is just allowing everybody to come up with their own conclusion. And so it's just like now nobody believes anybody's hurt, and you got fans booing. So but that's typical NCAA.
That's definitely them being very slow to move with these kinds of things. And like you said, this has been going around for a long time because coaches have figured out that's how you stop momentum if you don't have a timeout. Like, you just tell a guy, fake a cramp. Like, you kidding me? Like, this is so dumb. Like, also, just think about that. All right, medical personnel. Think of the doctors and the nurses that come over, help out the player. They take an oath to help player or help whoever they're working on, right? Like, they have to, like, they take whatever, I forget what it's called, but an oath to help people, not hurt them. And you're like, how do they react when they get over there to this guy who's just laying there? He's like, yeah, I faked a cramp. I'm not really hurt. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, at that point, I'd be like, this is unethical. Get me out of here. I don't like this. But that's another story for another day. Jared, before we get out of here, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
You can find me on X at AJY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.